What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. So we're gonna make a new woodworking bench for the new shop. So the bench that I have now is just 2x4s with a sheet of plywood on top, you know, woodworking vise, 2 shelves underneath, and then I kind of hung my hand planes off of the table because there was a brick wall or a rock wall behind it, so I couldn't really hang them on the wall. But you know, this bench has worked out pretty good for me so far. Yeah, I've had it for about a year, and it's made me a decent amount of money. So it's done its job. It's nothing special. I don't have to worry about damaging it. It's a nice thing, you know. I'll do whatever. It doesn't matter. So I want to make a new bench, but obviously wood is through the roof right now. I would love nothing more than to get hard maple as the top. Nice hard maple as the top, and maybe put some walnut accents in it. I mean, hard maple is super stable. It's a nightmare to work with, but it looks really cool in contrast with, you know, the walnut. Love it. Absolutely love it, but too expensive. Especially right now. It just doesn't make sense. So I'm also going to be sharing this, you know, all of my tools and stuff with the family, so everyone can kind of go in there and mess around and do things. You know, it's going to be like a family affair, which is pretty cool. So, you know, I don't want to build like something like that because I want people to be able to use it and not worry about it if you cut into it by accident or you got some paint on it, like whatever. You know what I mean? One day I will build myself a solid maple workbench, but it's not going to be today. So I got to figure out what we're going to use. So I've been looking online, just perusing, and I see a lot of MDF kind of workbenches. I don't know. It's kind of boring. So I'm thinking plywood, and I've always wanted to do this. I've always wanted to rip down plywood and put the end grain up and glue a bunch of boards together so all you see is the end grain and all the little different color stripes in the plywood. And I would go with Baltic birch, but Baltic birch comes from Russia and it's going for astronomically high prices right now, so can't go with that. So we're gonna go with regular birch. You're just regular Home Depot birch plywood. I think that's exactly what we're gonna do. We're gonna go grab some plywood. We're gonna rip the bench. Top is gonna be 3 inches thick, so 3-inch rips of plywood, and it's gonna be approximately 32 inches wide by a little bit under 8 feet long. That's kind of what I want. And then we gotta figure out legs after. I haven't even thought about legs yet, but let's build the top, mount the new vise. We're actually gonna put 2 vices on there. Yeah, let's just get that done first. Let's go get started. It's not as easy as it looks. Trust me. Actually, it wasn't that bad. I just should have had an outfeed table. But whatever. But anyways, this is kind of what it's going to look like. This is what I'm going for. It's going to be really heavy. But yeah, anyways, I want to glue 3 different sections. I was going to do 2, but if I do 3 sections, I'll be able to send them through the thickness planer and get most of the cleanup done. So we're gonna do 3 sections, glued and clamped, send it through there, and then glue all 3 together. And then we only have a little bit of planing and sanding to do at the end. That's my vote. All right, lesson learned here. I'm gonna have to get a paint roller because you got to get the glue on fast. Because these first 3, I'm not so you can see how there's no squeeze out on these first 3 boards, and then we have squeeze out everywhere. So obviously I didn't put enough on these first ones, and I kind of sensed that as I was using this. I was like, I don't know if that's good enough. So I quickly switched over to the brush. But obviously it's really hard for me to, with the brush, it's hard to control the amount. So this is gonna be a mess to clean up. But yeah, anyways, I got pretty much every single clamp that I own on it. I wish I kind of need more. Sickening, I know. Alrighty, I grabbed some reinforcements. A cheap paint roller tray and a couple more of my favorite clamps, these pipe clamps. But I decided to go with galvanized pipe this time. Lesson learned, because the black malleable pipe, I went with 3/4 too, a little bit heavier duty. But this, this black pipe, you get glue on it and it rusts and it transfers onto your project that you're working on. You'll have little rust spots that you have to sand and plane out, and sometimes they go pretty deep, so I'm trying to avoid. Anyways, the first section is glued up. All nice and dry. Oh yeah, I put way too much glue. Oh God. Look at that. A little bit of squeeze out, not too much, just right. That's what I'm talking about. No glue everywhere. Unlike this one. Holy smokes. This is kind of exactly why I wanted one of these. Just simple, just a blade, not much to it, wide open throw, not as much to maintain. Kind of like your beater, the scrub plate. It doesn't have to be as sharp. you know, as your good planes, and you can just knock stuff down real quick, like glue. Actually did a really good job taking the bulk of this glue off. All right, it is time for a quick pajama glue up before bed. I just popped the second one out of the clamps because we got a nice even coat of glue and it dried pretty quick. You know, I carefully took it out of the clamps and I just put the third section, and look how many clamps that is. Holy crap. All right, we've got a nice set of new blades. Just get these things changed out. Now we're gonna attempt to plane those plywood sections, get them flat. Hopefully it'll handle it. That's a lot of end grain to power through. All right, before we get too crazy, it's Friday. I think I earned one of these this week. Delicious. So I got the new blades in, and I'm thinking while we have the planer out, maybe we can send this piece of pine down. There's no nails in it, which is nice. You usually don't find one of these without it being riddled with nails. This was a support for a house, so it just had masonry around it. It only had one nail on the top, which I got out. All right, let's see how the planer likes plywood end grain. This will be interesting. And look at that. That was gonna go right in the trash. That's a nice piece of timber there. Little planing, couple passes on the old table saw, brand new. All right, so we got these pretty flat to the same thickness. Now we got to check to see if they're perfectly straight. If they are, we can just glue it up. But I doubt it. It can't be that easy. Wow. I almost can't believe this. Yeah, I'm a little confused. It never lines up on the first shot. So we've got we have a small gap here, and when it's tight, we have a small gap here. I think we can pull that with clamps. It's small enough. And then this back one, like you can't even tell where this one starts or begins. Nice. Dude, this thing is gonna be extremely heavy. look at that. This side is pretty flat already. But we get down there and there's a light cup in the middle. I was figuring we would have to do a little bit of work to it. We've got a slight cup forming down at this end, but yeah, we'll have another chance to plane and sand and get it nice. Alrighty. I'd like to keep going on this. Family kept me out late last night, and yeah, I got a bit of a hangover right now. Kind of feel like I'm gonna puke a little bit. Just a little. But I would really like nothing more than to get a coat of something on this today. So I mean, that's a really good sign. If you're running, this is the number 7 jointer by Veritas, and it happens to be a bevel up, so this is much better for end grain or tough woods. And I mean, I'm running this across this thing, and if this thing was really bad, I'd find it skipping over sections very easily. No matter where I push it on this table, and I'm going diagonal, not straight against the grain, but diagonally like this, no matter where I'm planing, it's taking a shaving. So that's telling me that we are really close. Alright, so I forgot about this little nut too. You can actually see it sticks up a little bit. So I made a little pocket for that to fit in. Then you get your 2 spots for your hooks. And I'll pre-drill, you know, at the end, because there's a little slop here, so I have a chance. You know, I do have another chance to square things up. Yeah, see, there's a little bit. And this thread, I went back and forth a few times and I could feel it. It was rubbing on the table, so I took my scrub plane and just tried to dish out a little bit of material on that center line where this bolt is going to be running back and forth. And now, you know, I'm not getting thread marks. If I push down on this and twist it back and forth, I don't get any thread marks on the wood now, so I think we're good. got a fever, little fever. I feel like shit today, but yeah, I want to keep going. So I'm gonna cut the ends, try to flush it up with a router bit, you know, and get the other side, top side ready. I'd like to get epoxy on soon, maybe today, I don't know, we'll see. So I cut the bulk of it, you know, from the bottom side, nice and clean. And I ran the saw just out a little bit on the second pass, so that I can come in with a flush trim router bit. I just didn't want to chance it and have like a saw mark in the middle that I have to sand out. Just figure this would be, hopefully, a little bit easier. There's some air pockets, air holes, a bunch of little ones everywhere. I'm gonna take some bowling ball epoxy, because this stuff dries like that, and then I'll be able to sand it smooth, make sure I get all the holes filled, and then we'll put on, you know, one coat. I just want to do one coat of the woodworking epoxy to kind of like get everything leveled out. Then I'll get another sanding, and then after, you know, before the second coat of epoxy, we'll drill all the holes, because I only want one coat of epoxy to go down inside the holes that we drill, so, because otherwise we'll have to drill them out again. So yeah, one coat in the holes, two coats on the top. So let's mix up some epoxy. Oh yeah. That epoxy paints on just like urethane. Yeah, that was a little bit of a pain, and the bit slightly walked on a few of them. Just a slight angle, but it doesn't really matter. It's only to hold wood. So, you know, I was gonna, and I still might, take a tiny round over bit with the router and go and round this, flip it over, round the bottom. You know, so that way, if you use, because there's short bench dogs, then they have these long ones. I have a bunch of short ones. You could still use them here, but if you push them down below the table surface, you're gonna have to get your finger underneath the table and push it up. So I think we should make the bottom nice and smooth for, you know, the old fingering action from the bottom, so you don't catch a splinter under the fingernail. So I was thinking maybe I can kill two birds with one stone and even smooth out the little hole with my bowling bevel sander. Just some sandpaper on a little pole made for going in bowling ball holes. I might be able to bevel the top and smooth out the hole inside. One shot, and I'll grab a bench dog. Do a little testing. This is like your standard. I do want to buy some long ones at some point. Yeah, I want these to be a little loose because I still have to epoxy. So, but we can go back and fine tune it with the bevel sander. That bevel sander worked incredibly well. I wish you could feel that. That is smooth. It was pretty rough in there after cutting the hole. Oh yeah, and these fit in perfect. Dudes, it's dry. Oh, this feels cool. So I grabbed 3 more of these things from the depot. I'm starting to really love these things. 1 inch by 2 foot by 2 foot project panels. Foamular, whatever. They're super cheap. I mean, I think they're like $4, maybe $3. And these are great for, you know, putting on the workbench or putting something on them that you don't want damaged. So I think I'm gonna keep 3 of these with the new woodworking bench anyway. So whenever we're ripping down plywood, you know, we can throw these on the table, use the track saw, and not have to worry about cutting the table. Alright, now all we have to do is just get a quick coat of poly on. Ready? Man, I wish I could do that all the time. In real life. Like, oh, you need that basement dugout? Done! See you later. Alrighty, we got the top built. Holes drilled, epoxy on top, super flat, super straight, and urethane on the bottom. Good to go. So this is gonna be part 1, 2 videos. The next video is gonna be the good one, because we're putting the Soberg's vise on, tail vise on. We're gonna build some legs, and then go bring it to its new home and put it together and see what it looks like. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you subscribe. Throw me a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one. See you there.